All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into some seriously profound wisdom, all about action, duty, and what it really means to be free. And we're getting it straight from the source, chapter 18 of the Bhagavad Gita. So think about this for a second. To find real, lasting peace, do you have to just quit? Quit your job, leave your family, basically abandon the whole world? I mean, this is a huge question, right? It's the exact problem that the warrior Arjuna is facing. He's on a battlefield and he's thinking, is the only way out of this to just drop my weapons and walk away from it all? So here's how we're going to break this down. We're going to follow this incredible conversation step by step. And by the end, you'll see the huge difference between just running away from life and actually living in it, but with a totally different mindset. All right, let's get right into it. It all kicks off with Arjuna asking his guide, Krishna, this really direct, really urgent question. He's basically saying, I need help. I need to know what the right thing to do is. And this isn't just some casual philosophical question. He's getting super specific. He wants to understand the real difference between sannyasa and tyaga. You know, what's the difference between just quitting, stopping all your actions, versus continuing to act but letting go of what happens, giving up the fruits of your action. And believe me, this one little distinction, it's the key to everything. And Krishna doesn't mess around. His answer immediately draws this super sharp, super clear line in the sand. And this one distinction, this one definition, it's going to be the foundation for this whole new way of looking at action.
Okay, so look at this. This is the core of it right here. Sannyasa, on one hand, is pretty straightforward. It's about abandoning actions that are all about you, actions driven by selfish desires. But tyaga, now that's where things get really interesting. It's not about stopping the action. It's about doing the action, doing your duty, but then completely letting go of the result. You do the work, you put in the effort, but you release your grip on what happens after that.
But wait, it gets even more nuanced. Krishna's like, okay, this idea of letting go of the results, tyaga, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. It actually comes in, let's call them 3 different flavors, and it all depends on why you're letting go.
So check out this breakdown. First, you've got tamasika tyaga. This is basically giving up on your duties just because you're lazy or confused. It's giving up out of ignorance. Then there's rajasika tyaga. This is when you quit because something is hard or it makes you uncomfortable. You're trying to avoid pain. But then there's the goal, the highest form, sattvika tyaga. And this is where you do your duty, you do what needs to be done simply because it ought to be done. No strings attached, you're not looking for praise, you're not looking for a reward, you just do it. So you see the big idea here? The ideal path isn't to stop acting, it's to stop being attached to the fruit of the action. Real renunciation isn't about checking out of life. It's about checking in fully, but without all the stress and anxiety about how things are going to turn out. Okay, so this is where it gets really practical, because Krishna basically gives a scientific argument for why giving up all action isn't just a bad idea. It's literally impossible for us. He points out something so obvious, but so profound. As long as you're alive, in a body, you can't not act. I mean, think about it. Breathing, that's an action. Thinking, also an action. Even digesting your lunch is an action. You can't escape it. So if we're acting all the time, no matter what is an action really made of? Well, the Gita tells us that every single action isn't just one thing. It's actually the result of 5 different things all working together. And this is such a cool way to deconstruct it. First, you've got the body itself, the place where the action happens. Then the agent, which is kind of like our ego, the part that says, I am doing this. You've got your senses, which are the tools you use. Then there's the actual effort you put in. And finally, there's this 5th factor, providence, or the divine, some unseen force. So it's never just you acting in a vacuum. Now, once you really get that, once you see that every action is this big collaboration, it completely changes how you see yourself. It's a radical shift. Yeah, the Gita is super blunt about this. It says that if you look at those 5 factors and still think, I am the sole doer, well, your intellect is a little undeveloped. You're basically mistaking one actor, your ego, for the entire play. And this is the mic drop moment of the whole chapter. It's an absolutely wild idea. Krishna says that if you can act without that little voice saying, I'm the one doing this, and you're not attached to the outcome, then you are not bound by that action, not even by something as huge as fighting a war. The action happens, but it doesn't stick to you.
Okay, so the big question is, how in the world do you get to that state? How do you act without an ego? Well, the Gita says the key is a certain kind of knowledge, the highest kind.
And we're not talking about book smarts here. Sattvic knowledge is a total shift in how you see the world. It's the wisdom to look out at all these different beings, all these separate things, and see the one, single, unbreakable reality that connects every last bit of it. And once you see that unity, what happens to the ego? It starts to dissolve. Because if everything is one, then this idea of a separate me doing things for my benefit, it just stops making sense. You naturally start acting for the good of the whole, because you realize you are the whole. So let's wrap this up. What's the big takeaway? It's a super practical guide for living. Real freedom isn't about running away from your life. It's about changing your relationship with your actions inside your life. It's about moving from me to we, from a view centered on the ego to one centered on unity. And I want to leave you with this question to chew on. If every action is this complex dance between 5 different partners, the body, the senses, the effort, the ego, and the divine, then who exactly is the you that's acting? Think about that for a bit. It might just change everything.